Right, hello there everyone, welcome back to a Scouser Reacts, and on this video, we are going to be talking about Declan Rice to Arsenal. It's amazing for Arsenal. If you're an Arsenal fan, it's good to get that one over the line officially because it seemed to have prolonged itself a little bit, so I don't know what was the hold up, but now it's completed, it's over the line, and Arsenal are sorted. They've got a new DM. They might be keeping Partey, and I think that'll be beneficial. I think you should keep Partey, because then a midfield of Odegaard, Rice and Partey just seems pretty decent. And don't get me wrong, Declan Rice, it's still yet to be seen if he can be a league-winning midfielder, but if you see the potential, and Arteta sees the potential, then it's one worth taking. The main thing to take out of this, if you're an Arsenal fan, is that Arsenal have intended to keep going. They've intended to keep spending. Now, money doesn't equate to trophies, but what it does equate to is the best possible chance of winning trophies as long as you keep improving. If you weren't good enough last year, what's the enforcements that you need to make to bridge the gap from what was, 80-something points to 90-something points, as that could be the difference of you lifting the silverware and falling short like they did last year. So a great, big, huge signing on an Arsenal standpoint, and I'd absolutely love to hear what you would say about it in the comments down below, because I know some people have their other side, and to sort of touch on the counter argument of how this signing could go, it's 100 million for a guy who comes from West Ham. Besides the Conference League, and some people still have the questions on the legitimacy of the Conference League, it's someone who's achieved very minimal in their career, and for someone to achieve very minimal in their career come to Arsenal, how are you just supposed to expect them to get you from second to first type idea? And if you're spending £100 million, which I understand the flaws by just determining an outcome of a signing by just the price tag, but it's a factor, because if Declan Rice doesn't work out and he doesn't end up being the league-winning midfielder that Arsenal necessitate, then that's an issue, because it's going to be harder to replace someone who you've just bought for 100 million. We know this very well with a couple of players like Naby Keita, struggled to get him off the wage bill, had to let him go for free. Manchester United are experiencing this right now as we speak with Harry Maguire. If you buy a big player and he doesn't particularly do quite well, it's hard to let him go, especially if you've gone for a big price, because you're not willing to lose so much money. So this has to work for Arsenal. Now, that is the risk factor, is that if it doesn't work, then it's a big, big risk that hasn't paid off. But if it does work, then wow, it was a stroke of genius from not only Arteta, but Edu as well, to be willing to spend the money and to get this deal over the line. From Declan Rice's standpoint, it was the perfect move. He's joining a project which is quite flawless at the moment. They seem to be going up and up and up. It's a young manager, young players, a lot of players that he'll be familiar with. You got Smith Rowe and Saka, and then even the other young players, they built a proper culture. When you watch an Arsenal training video now, you see how harmonious it is between them all. And it doesn't mean that that's going to equate to them winning trophies. What it does mean is that the club's on the up and up and up. And even though it took Arteta a little bit of time to get there, now that he's got there, I don't understand if people are on his back, because, he had to go through the transition of getting rid of all the old players, which we know is very difficult, especially when they're on high wages, and then replacing it with a whole younger team, and then that young team getting second, especially when everyone was predicting them to finish 5th and 6th. And it's a good achievement, but it still doesn't guarantee a league title, and that's why I wanted to assess both sides of the scale. I understand the excitement, but I also understand the doubt, and I also understand if you still choose Man City to win the league over Arsenal, because I don't see Rice as a better signing or a better player than Rodri, for instance. So therefore, I still think Man City trump Arsenal on that spectrum. I don't think Declan Rice will ever be as good. I think if he was as good, we'd be seeing signs of that now. And attributes-wise, they're just not the same. But if he can bring what Arsenal need, because Arsenal, they might not need everything that Rodri brings. They might just need everything that Rice brings. Even if Rodri brings more, if Rice brings enough, then that's all you need. You know what I mean? It'll be an interesting sign, and I'm intrigued to know what you think. Anyway, for the latter part of the video, I'm going to be touching on a bit more of a sensitive topic. Now, on James Redmond TV, I touch on these because I think it's actually okay. People say stick within football. I say this is very much related to football, as it's relating to footballer, where you see repetitive cases coming up nowadays of, allegations and abusive allegations. But let me just say to any victim of abuse, or on the other end of abuse, as somebody who's seen it firsthand, especially within, low poverty areas, it's quite common. And I've grew up with a single mother, and listen, you can see things and it's not good. And at the end of the day, I don't want to dispute that there's potential victims in any of these cases, because they are the same people who are going through it, and that has to be taken into consideration. However, there is also been cases that there's been people who have lied to maybe, get a bag, as some people would like to refer, or maybe a further incentive, maybe a misunderstanding on what abuse is. I don't know. There's been loads of cases to where, listen, it's a touchy one, but basically Benjamin Mendy came out and got cleared innocent, right? at least on a couple of cases. Now, the counter-argument at the moment seems to be, well, if 10 people came out and said that he's guilty, that must mean he's guilty. Well, then that just means I just need to get 10 friends, call you a murderer. Even if I haven't got evidence, we can now get you jailed just because 10 people said so. The main objective that I'm leading towards here is that we have to abide by innocent until proven guilty. And if we don't do this, then what's the premise? Because, like I said, if you want to go off, well, he can't be exactly innocent either because there's 10 people. Maybe, but not one of the 10 people have been proven to be truthful. So if we're going to go off 10 sources and not one have been criticised as truthful, then that's a bit of an issue that we're going to use them as the definitive premise to whether he's guilty or not. So from what we know, he's innocent on a couple of charges. I don't know if it's all of them. It may be all of them. If it is all of them, then I do think the player needs a huge boost and huge support from people, because I don't think people, the potential victims we should take into consideration for sure. But if they have been proven to be lying, which if he's been cleared, then that must be the case, then we need to actually look at it from a standpoint of not diminishing them, not bashing them. That doesn't solve anything. But the one who's really lost everything here is Benjamin Mendy. He's lost 3 or 4 years of his career. And listen, I also don't dispute that the justice system can be flawed, and on many degrees as well, by the way, because, you see the conviction rate and it's not really high and stuff like this. But again, there's still no premise to say Mendy's guilty, and to see so many people still saying he's guilty, it's worrying, it's alarming, because again, you're now creating a premise where we can say people is guilty based on opinion, and if that's going to be the premise to what gets people into jail, then now we've got a bit of a society that is a problem. Because as I say, off that same logic, I just now need to get 10 people, call you a murderer, and then bring it to a judge, and then hopefully, because I've only got 10 people, they'll take it into consideration, because it's not just one person saying they saw you murder someone, it's now 10 people, so must have murdered someone. But then you're sitting there thinking, but I never actually murdered anyone, so why is this fair? It needs to be a bit more fair, and I do think the way we search or investigate these things can be improved, and significantly improved, but then you can't dispute, just because it's flawed, just because the system's flawed, that does now not mean it's Mendy's fault or Mendy is guilty. Mendy could also just be a victim of a poor justice system, which typically doesn't investigate or catch people for stuff like this. And therefore, he's now going to fall into a category of men who have just got away with a crime. How do you know that he's just got away with a crime? He might have actually not done the crime. And if he hasn't done the crime, that matters. And that's why I like to speak about these things, because there's a lot of strong women out there who are defending and have actually been through abusive things. And for these people to be on the other side and fall into a category of some liars, not all, but some liars, some over-exaggerators, and those who just simply can't prove it, then that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And I do get where it gets sensitive for people here, but I just want to establish my point of view. Innocent until proven guilty in all cases. I do not agree with going around and bashing people. Even if they've went out and said things about Benjamin Mendy, I think they should be punished behind closed doors. I don't think they should be face revealed. I don't think they should be bashed. I don't think that achieves anything. What does achieve something is punishment, and if you lie, you should be punished. If you cause abuse and you get caught for causing abuse, you should be punished. That's a factor. So that's the only reason why I wanted to bring up the Benjamin Mendy stuff. And it's not to cause any crap. It's not to cause any political arguments. It's just simply to cause, the definitive premise that a footballer has just lost his whole career, and if he was telling the truth the whole time, which is deemed to be the case, then that's a big shame, isn't it? Because that at the end of the day, that's not good at all. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. If it's uncomfortable conversations and you don't like it, then I wouldn't advise staying subscribed to this channel. I also wouldn't advise engaging in the comments down below if it's not going to be common discourse to where you're actually seeking for common ground. If you're just saying, James, you're wrong because you spoke about this, and how dare you say Mendy's innocent, if you can find me one piece of evidence from one of the 10 girls that says he's guilty, I'm more than happy to align with what you say. And as far as I'm concerned, throw away the key if that's the case. But as that's not being the case, it'd be very friggin' harsh for me to sit there and say he's going to jail just because 10 people came out. Again, I've gave you the analogies to how that doesn't work and how that logic can be used against you in many different ways, and how you can fall short of that logic even if you're a perfect person. So, yeah, a few things to conclude. The justice system needs to just find these people better, because then if people have the perception that it's so flawed, even innocent men like Mendy can now be getting called guilty even though there's no evidence against them. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed. Another reason why it needs to be addressed is because some victims and then some actual victims, these are the people who are going to fall short. The actual victims, those who have been through abuse, these are the ones who are going to fall short in the midst of all these narratives being created through stories like this. And it can be footballers. We see everything that's went on with Johnny Depp. Andrew Tate has been a more recent one. And it's just one of those things where I feel like the narrative now is just like, men are always getting lied about, or women are always lying. No, I disagree with both narratives. There's bell ends in both men and there's bell ends in women. There's just some bell end people that so happen to fall in both category of the two genders that we have. So therefore, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, all right then, these categorised bell ends, whether male or female, need to be addressed to accordingly. And those who lie, men or female, need to be addressed to accordingly. Those who abuse, men or women, need to be addressed to accordingly. And bashing people who have lied doesn't achieve anything. But improving the justice system absolutely achieves the maximum. Because, you know, I've seen situations in my lifetime where, for instance, I had a friend, he got proven innocent in the end, but there was a similar case like this. And, you know, it ruined the perception of many people and how many people see him. He lost many friends. And even to this day, there's still some people who come up to me and be like, what's he up to now? Didn't he do this? And I let them know, no, he was actually proven innocent. They don't see that. And that's the thing that's going to carry around with Benjamin Mendy, Gylfi Sigurdsson, who got proven to be innocent as well. So it's not every case, and certainly there's never not a case where, you know, someone who's found not guilty might actually be guilty. But you need a premise, you need evidence to definitively say with your mouth. It's very dangerous, you know what I mean, to just say you're guilty because of this with no direct evidence. So I hope I've established my point there. I don't want anyone to watch this video and say, James, like, I've been abused. Are you saying that, I could be a liar? No. I've seen people close to me be abused, and it's horrible, and that's why I wish the system was much better for these people, to support these people, to accommodate them, because they need that accommodation when you go through something like that. It's not good, and you need support. But then in the same vein, what I can say to you, what if Mendy's innocent though? Doesn't that matter? Shouldn't that be taken into consideration? Because we've got 10 sources and none have been identified as truthful. Maybe they haven't been called liars, but if he's been found innocent, then that must be what it implies. So it's interesting conversations. And again, if these aren't for you, then this isn't the channel for you. It's not everyday conversation we talk about this stuff. But yes, if a footballer loses his career, I think that should be something that should be addressed by the wider footballing community, especially if he's being innocent. But anyway, guys, smash a like if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, you know what to do. And I love every single one of you, and I'll see you all in a bit. Peace.